It's time for The Story Behind the Person, featuring lively, in-depth conversation with compelling guests from our community. And here is our host, Jonathan van Bilsen.
Hello and welcome. My guest today is Kristen Meyer Creamer, one of the most volunteer-oriented people I've ever met. Kristen has spent most of her adult life helping organizations achieve goals, both financially and staff-wise. We'll learn all about this amazing person right after these messages.
Not all Canadians have the time or desire to manage their finances. That's where we come in, helping Canadian families plan for a secure, happy, and successful future. Visit our website at www.teamfg.ca.
At Voss, your independent grocer, it's all about hometown living and shopping. Owned and operated by Terry and Christine Voss, their newly renovated Port Perry store carries many local items to support our town and its residents.
Welcome back. As I mentioned, my guest today is Kristen Meyer Creamer. I don't know where to start with Kristen because volunteer is her middle name. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you recently, I guess the most recent was the interim executive director of the Skugog Chamber of Commerce.
That's right.
Which you kind of fell into because you were president of the board, which you kind of fell into because you were on the board.
Yes.
Which you fell into because you were doing so much stuff for them, right?
Exactly. Funny how that happened.
So looking at your resume, it seems that your entire nature is helping other people. And which is very commendable. I mean, extremely commendable. But you also have a great wealth of talent in the marketing, the graphic design. I'm not sure what the catch-all phrase is, but it's like if something needs to be done, you're the go-to person. And I'm sure that works against you too, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, and but unlike a jack of all trades, you're a master of many trades as well.
I try.
So, but I imagine it's a little difficult because you do get stretched pretty thin sometimes. Like there's stuff that happens, and is it the old 80-20 rule where 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people?
Oh yeah, it's just like, a college group presentation. Sometimes there's the same group of people doing the bulk of the work, and we try and spread it around as much as we can and encourage others by showing them it's actually fun to get involved, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So how did you get into this? Like where are you from? Where are you born?
I was born in Brampton,
and
I was born into a family of volunteers.
Really? Yeah.
That was how I grew up. My weekends were spent at Lions Club events and Girl Guide events and all kinds of fun things, and that's sort of how I fell into volunteerism. And
so when did you decide that you were going to pursue a graphic design, marketing sort of career?
So my background is actually in history. I have a degree in medieval history.
Really?
Yeah, but I actually grew up as well in advertising companies. My dad has been an art director at an advertising company for 45 years, and so I was a little toddler toddling around downtown Toronto, oldest building I think that exists in Toronto. That's where their office was.
Really?
And I just watched my dad work, and I'm a practicing artist as well, so it came naturally to me, this kind of thing, but I always thought it was a hobby. And then when I got out of university, I took just a little part-time job helping out at his office, and it turned into me managing a lot of people there. Wow. I ended up being a project coordinator, a project manager, and then from there I started to just learn graphic design on my own. Really? Just from sort of observing other people, and I started my own little business doing that and helping my husband's company with that sort of thing, and it just kind of evolved from there.
Wow. And I'm sure that industry has changed a lot. I know, and I mean, you're quite young, but in my lifetime, I've seen that print industry and graphic design industry go from using letraset and a knife, an X-Acto knife to cut around things to everything now is computer generated.
Oh yes, my dad had the letraset. He had, I remember his coveted set of Pantone markers, which I wasn't allowed to touch, and occasionally we find them around the house still. But it was always fascinating to me. And he went through that period of time, where it went from the Mad Men type advertising company to a more modernized office, and he changed over to a digital system, and now that's all he does. So, but I'm sure he does miss the days of just sketching and using his markers.
I think it's a lot more concentrated. Like, I know a computer is the same thing, but it's not the same hands-on. You only have to have hands-on with a mouse and a keyboard and a pen. Whereas with the old days, you need to know everything about the cutting and so forth, right? So you worked at that agency for a while.
I did. I worked there for 10 years.
What was the name of it?
It's called Ryan Design International.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's mostly focused on the home building industry, but we did projects all around the world, in Kazakhstan and England, Malaysia, places like that, and in lots in the GTA as well.
Right. So you traveled from Brampton down there, or were you living somewhere else at the time?
Yes, I traveled from Brampton, and then my family moved out here, and they live in Seagrave now. And so we've my own family has also migrated here, and we love it here. It's just the best place to live in the whole world.
It is a nice, North Durham is wonderful. Our show goes into South Durham, so we won't say too much nice things about North Durham.
Okay.
But I did meet your mother, actually, and as an aside, she had a pretty nasty accident with a horse, right?
She did. She looked after some horses for a neighbor, just helping feed them. And she was over there one day, and a horse got spooked and took off on her and knocked her into the barn door. And she had to be airlifted from the farmer's field to Sunnybrook and
a long recovery.
St. Mike's maybe.
It was like a couple year recovery, right?
Yeah, she had a pretty bad concussion that lasted a while, and this was all during COVID, so the beginning of COVID, so it was a little scary for a time there. We couldn't be with her for a lot of her treatment.
Right.
So it was a bit scary, but it's been a long road, and she's getting there.
Hopefully, it's not something that she wanted to keep personal and private. Now that we've told the world about it. So you're volunteering. Now, some of the things that you've done more recently is you have the Step Up. What's it called?
Step Out North Durham.
Right. Which is exactly what?
It's an online platform and Facebook group page, I should say, that shares volunteer opportunities, shares community events, connects people with volunteer jobs and roles. And it's sort of like a hub for this kind of thing, whereas normally you would go out if you're looking for volunteer work and you'd have to do a lot of the research yourself and see what you're interested in. Whereas my website lists all kinds of opportunities and what it's all about, so you can pick and choose something that really works for you, your timing and your interests. And then on our Facebook page, we post things as they come up. So we'll post different events, different volunteer opportunities and roles as they come out.
So if I have an organization and I'm looking for volunteers, I would contact you, become part of that, and then people would gravitate to me. So are there more volunteers or more need for volunteers?
There's definitely a need for volunteers. There always is, but it seems to be more acute in the last few years since COVID, since we have a generation of kids, teenagers now, who are a little more shy to volunteer, to get out there in the community, because they spent so much time at home
they lost 4 years of their lives
for those years. So
That's
they're a little socially nervous, but really volunteerism is what they need. It's the remedy to fixing some of these problems, is getting these kids out, getting them involved in their communities, having them talk to the public. It's just the best possible thing for them to build skills.
Okay. And is it how difficult is it for companies to find volunteers? Like what do they do if they don't go through your site, your system? What do they just post stuff on bulletin boards?
Typically it's very kind of been the same for many years. It's putting out information on social media. It's word of mouth.
Right.
When I grew up, it was very much a family activity. So the culture has shifted quite a bit, so that you're not being a lot of kids aren't being dragged out with their parents to volunteer, whereas that was very much the case when I was growing up. You just went with your parents and you volunteered along with them. You were given some kind of job. For me, it was collecting the plates at Lobster Fest and
Right.
you know, cleaning up and helping my grandfather with his tongs while he did the lobster cooking. But you know, you just were given a job. These days it's a little bit harder. It's almost like searching for employees.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure it is. It's tougher because you're not paying them a lot of money.
yes,
right?
exactly. But you are paying them an experience, which is they still need that for university applications, college applications.
Right.
So it's still really important.
I have a wallet full of experience. But I know that the Rotary Club did a rib fest, and I remember seeing not only the members but their spouses and their children and that emptying the plates, putting them in the garbage, cleaning everything up, and it's almost a thankless job because people don't appreciate it, and a lot of times people actually assume that volunteers are being paid, and they'll talk down to them because they're not happy with something or this sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at an event, say for instance, for example, we just ran the Scugog Beer and Cider Festival last summer, and you look at that as a 2-day event, but really it's an event that takes months to plan and also takes 4 or 5 or 6 days of actual hands-on work for setup, for takedown, for delivery of items. So it's quite a lot of work. And it's not just what you're seeing that day at the event.
It's never just what you're seeing.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and the time that people put in is commendable.
And it can be a very thankless job too, I think, because it's human nature to look at something on the surface and then criticize what's wrong with it rather than what's right with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get a lot of emails telling me what's wrong with this show. They just think, we sit here and we talk and it's over. They don't realize there's a whole bunch of people involved and it takes a long time to do. And I was a little bit involved in that beer and cider festival from a visual perspective. I certainly didn't do a lot of work, but people were lugging stuff all over the place, setting up fencing. Like there's just so much that goes into something, and then people come and
and I mean, when you look at an event, say for instance, for example, we just ran the Scugog Beer and Cider Festival last summer, and you look at that as a 2-day event, but really it's an event that takes months to plan and also takes 4 or 5 or 6 days of actual hands-on work for setup, for takedown, for delivery of items. So it's quite a lot of work. And it's not just what you're seeing that day at the event.
It's never just what you're seeing.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and the time that people put in is commendable.
And it can be a very thankless job too, I think, because it's human nature to look at something on the surface and then criticize what's wrong with it rather than what's right with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get a lot of emails telling me what's wrong with this show. They just think, we sit here and we talk and it's over. They don't realize there's a whole bunch of people involved and it takes a long time to do. And I was a little bit involved in that beer and cider festival from a visual perspective. I certainly didn't do a lot of work, but people were lugging stuff all over the place, setting up fencing. Like there's just so much that goes into something, and then people come and they have a great time for the most part. Right. We're going to get some more into it. We're going to take a break. We're going to get into the Santa Claus Parade. I want to talk a little bit about the chamber and a little bit about the business that you and your husband run.
Great.
And we'll do that right after we come back after these messages.
Pet Value has a fleet of services to help you and your pet live their very best lives. Visit Pet Value in Port Perry to discover a world of expertise, friendly staff, and everything you need for your pets. Pet Value, your pet, your store.
Top care with top stylists. Book your next hair appointment with Port Perry's award-winning hair salon, Rosario Greco Styles. The hair experience you deserve. Book today. Call 905-985-0099.
At PP Print and Digital Services, we're excited to announce the expansion of our services to include comprehensive point-of-sale display solutions. Let us help you create a compelling in-store presence and ensure your products reach your customers effectively.
Welcome back. My guest is Kristen Meyer Creamer, who was the executive director for the Chamber of Commerce in Scugog and has done so many things in the volunteer world. Kristen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting, some of the things that you've been involved in. So we talked a little bit about the Santa Claus Parade, which is a big, big part of the Chamber's existence, and you're very instrumental in that, right? You're co-chair of it, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, yeah.
So what goes into putting the Santa Claus Parade together?
Oh, months and months of work. We begin with meetings with our EMS partners, the Durham Region Police and Scugog Fire, Auxiliary Police, in March of each year, and then we begin meeting as a committee by late spring. That's when we choose our theme. That's when we talk about things we want to change from last year, some new things we want to include in next year's parade, and then it gets obviously busier and busier as we get closer to.
Right. It's a fun event, and again,
Super fun.
I mean, I just see the one portion of it when they come by. Everything looks smooth, like there's no issues whatsoever. But I remember there was a year when you had trouble with the weather, right? There was a lot of mud.
There's always trouble with weather, no matter what it is, every year.
And then COVID had its toll, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
COVID, the year that we put the parade on, it sort of went back and forth because they changed regulations so frequently. We really had to pivot quite a few times that year. We were planning a standing parade in the fairgrounds, and then at the last minute they allowed us to take it to the road.
Right.
So we had to pivot and completely change our whole plan, which was a challenge, but we got it done.
We did, or you did. I remember the one year when COVID had just started, we did a video parade.
Yes, that's right.
That was a lot of fun, for lack of a better word. So how do you get into volunteerism? So I get your family sort of dragged you out and stuff like that, but when did you make a conscious effort to actually get into a volunteer world?
Well, so obviously I had been focusing on my career for a little while and my family, and I was looking just for something to do, to give back, to get back into volunteerism, and I dipped my toe, so to speak, back in with dragon boat racing, and I became the captain of a dragon boat team.
Okay.
It was called Queen Bees,
Right.
and it raced in the Port Perry Dragon Boat Festival every year, and we raised thousands of dollars for the Port Perry Hospital Foundation.
Right.
We also ran a couple of outside of dragon boat events. We did a harvest dinner at Applewood Farm and Winery.
I remember that. That's when you sold tickets to the table, so to speak.
Yeah, it was a fall moonlight event. We had a catered dinner. We had beautiful ambiance up there with a setting sun and then stars above us. It was a gorgeous evening. I think we raised close to $10,000.
Wow.
So we've done a lot with that group, and it's now sort of retired or on hiatus at the moment, but hopefully we'll get back out on the water.
So when you organize these events, do you choose the charity? Does the company that you're working with choose the charity, or do you just find charities?
I just usually gravitate towards someone who needs the help, and I'm just naturally that way. I just want to fill a need if I see a need.
I mean, that's got to be a tough call on its own, that whole charity thing, because there's well over 900,000 registered charities in Canada.
Yes.
And some of them are a little bit sketchy. I remember there's a company who, it's a U.S. company, I won't really give their name, but it's got a bunch of kids playing musical instruments on a screen, and they will take your car or something like that, and but that money doesn't go necessarily to where you think it's going to go.
Right, yes.
So the key is to have that money stay in the community, right? And I know that charities have a percentage of administration, and some are as high as 50%, and some are as low as 0, I guess.
That's right.
So that's got to be an important part of the charity that you choose.
And so that's why I tend to gravitate more towards local not-for-profits.
Right.
Because I know that my time and energy and money sometimes is going right back into my community.
Right.
And of course, those big charities, they're more apt to receive grants and things like that, whereas smaller not-for-profits, they really struggle for volunteers, for funding, and just to keep their rent paid and their doors open. And so when you're thinking about where can I put my money and where can I put my time, I encourage people to look local, choose something that really would affect the people and the neighbors around them.
Right, like the food bank is I've always considered to be a great place to invest charitable dollars, because I know I've talked to them a few times through articles or whatever, and I know that they I don't see a need for people to use the food bank in North Durham because it's a pretty affluent society. But what I didn't realize is that a lot of people will spend their money on things that are not necessarily something that they should be spending it on, and consequently the children then don't get to eat, and that's why the food bank is there, so that
our food bank is highly used. It's
very much so.
Yes.
And I like that they don't judge.
No.
Sort of thing. So.
And what a great example of an organization that is truly grassroots. It's run by volunteers. They do it in their spare time, and they go above and beyond for our community.
Oh,
so
totally.
That's a wonderful example of a great one to support.
As is the Hospital Foundation. I mean, healthcare in Canada, as you know, has its struggles here and there. It's still a great system because I think your total outlay and whatever's wrong with you is your parking costs, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But they do need a lot of help, and I know that the Hospital Foundation is always recruiting, so people like you are certainly an asset for them, right?
Yeah, and they're doing some really exciting things this year. They're running a big Strong and Scugog event coming up, which is something new for them. And they've got a really kind of vivacious, energetic board that is really excited to do very cool things. Right. And the community really rallies around our hospital because it's small and hometown feeling, and when you go there, you feel like you're being really well looked after.
Right, and you are. You really are. They're always friendly, and I like that.
They are,
It's not a job I would take on, but it's
tough job.
it's commendable for the people who do it. So so as a kid you were dragged out to these charity events, and I'm sure you just lived for that moment. So now that you have kids, do you drag them out to
Absolutely. Yes, in fact, with Step Up, Step Out, I really, when I'm talking to not-for-profits and charitable organizations, I make sure to ask them, what do you have that families can do?
Right.
What is a volunteer role that a group or a family can do together? Because that is something that's lacking. The hospice is wonderful, but that's a very adult kind of geared volunteer role. Right. Whereas things like Culture Days with Scugog Arts, that's a perfect opportunity for a family to run an event or an activity at something like that together. They go together, they learn the skills together. Yep. And they leave at the end of the day feeling that they've spent a really great day together and they've given back to their community. Right. And this is how we get kids doing it. We have to make them do it. I know it sounds like it's, the old adage, you got to drag them around, but you don't really. After the first couple of times, they really open their eyes and they see what it's all about and why it's so fun. And our kids go to everything. Yeah. Our kids volunteer at a number of events, and they're the first ones to step up to say, yes, let's do it.
Well, if you don't subject them to it, they'll never learn, right?
No.
And that's very, very true in anything that you do with kids. I know your kids are also heavily involved in the community arts. I know your son is into theater, your daughter's into dance.
Yes, they're both little artists, and my sports journalist husband is kind of going, oh, where are my hockey players? But they're really into the arts.
That's an interesting name. I thought he was the Uber driver for the family, but
he is too.
we know your husband, Chris Creamer, has been on our show before and has. You jointly run a company called sportslogos.net.
That's right.
See, we did put a plug in for that. And so you work on that company as well with him.
Yeah, I'm sort of the marketing specialist for that company. I do a lot of the social media and marketing outreach. I help my husband out with lots of kind of outreach and talking to the leagues and gathering history and information that he can use on the website. And we've been working on that together since we got married. He's been working on this website since 1997. So
I know. I think he was like 8 or 9 at the time when he started.
Yeah, he must have been.
Yeah, I remember that. So let's talk about the chamber a little bit, because you did spend a lot of time with the chamber, and you're still involved with it to some degree. So you were on the board.
Yeah, I started out as a director on the board, and
how did that happen? You just
just someone recommended me, and they invited me to come and sit at a board meeting and see if I was interested in a director position, and I had a great time. It's just a wonderful group of energized people, and it's all volunteers, so it's like-minded people who are out there who are there to do work for their community, and I really gravitated towards that.
And for those people who don't know, the Chamber is an organization of about 300 or so members. They're all businesses in North Durham, and the organization does things to help them network, to help lobby for them on behalf of the individuals. There's also a benefit package, right, for healthcare and things like that they can take advantage of if you're a small business and you can't do that on your own. So it's a very worthwhile organization. And then you decided, somebody said, hey, you should be president of that group.
Yeah, so I've been the signature events chair for many years on the board, and so it just became kind of a natural movement for me to move into the president's position. So I chaired things like the Santa Claus Parade and the Business Excellence Awards and the Beer and Cider Festival. And as president, I got to continue working on those things. Right. And then when our executive director changed positions, they asked me to step in to take over.
Right. And which and you did a great job at it. I mean, you certainly ran a couple of excellent events. You were more or less thrown into that position, which
it was a quick transition, yes, for sure. But it made sense because I was already
involved
in every little aspect of that organization.
Yeah. Our time is up. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the conversation. It's great to get to know a little bit behind what people see and how much is involved. So thank you again. Thanks for everything that you do as well.
And thank you for volunteering with us.
Oh, it's always my pleasure. Thank you all for watching. Please join us every month right here for the story behind the person.